Good evening and welcome to NewsNight. Tonight we'll have all your international, national, and local news. I'm Leslie Krebs.
And I'm Juliana Brock. Here are updates on the negotiations of not only the Russia-Ukraine war, but the continuing efforts of the ceasefire exchange deal between Israel and Hamas.
And the holder of a $1 million Pirates baseball card has finally made their decision to sell or trade in their card with the Pirates. Find out what he chose and why.
All this and more coming up on NewsNight.
Since Trump's inauguration, talk of a discussion between Putin and Trump has been hanging in the air, waiting for the final confirmation. Both Trump and Putin seem eager and open to a discussion with one another. Putin is seemingly intent on discussing with the U.S. on a wide variety of subjects, like economic issues, nuclear arms control, and most importantly, the Ukraine war. Trump's main goal, however, in this discussion is to become the, quote, peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine. Both Trump and Putin have historically had a complicated but professionally positive relationship with one another, with Putin backing Trump's claims on Friday that the Ukraine war would have been avoided if he had been president at the time rather than Biden. However, Trump was in office when tension began arising in Kiev months before Putin's military moved in. The topic of oil is also a large contender for debate at this meeting due to price caps that were imposed in an effort to harm Russia. Trump's optimism for Russia, though, took a sharp turn when on Wednesday he made bold threats to impose sanctions and tariffs if no agreement is to be reached over the Ukraine war. Trump later posted a statement on Truth Social saying, quote, "Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse. If we don't make a deal and soon, I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries," end quote. Others are unsure, though, of the effectiveness and importance of these tariffs when back at the beginning of the Ukraine war during his first presidency, those tariffs were almost wholly ineffective due to the historic lack of trade between the U.S. and Russia. For now, an actual date for when this phone call is to take place has yet to be set, but is allegedly in the near future.
Last week, parts of the UK and Ireland experienced one of the strongest storms they've had in 10 years. Storm Eowyn formed in the North Atlantic Ocean and intensified. It was called an extratropical bomb cyclone. It issued numerous stay-at-home warnings as it brought 100-mile-per-hour winds. In County Donegal, Ireland, wind gusts reached up to 114 miles per hour, causing one fatality. Rail services were shut down, flights were delayed, and there were many forced road closures as trees could not withstand the wind. Millions were without power and widespread property damage plagued areas. Some describe the word storm in the name as too mild for the damage and havoc that Eowyn caused. When the strongest of Storm Eowyn finished, strong winds followed, causing cleanup delays. Cleanup efforts, repairs, and electricity restoration is going on in the areas. Anticipation hangs in the air as the exchange deal between Hamas and Israel continues to develop as the two groups take action despite different terms and conditions. Reporter Alyssa Mandarak has the details of what the most current exchange entailed. Alyssa?
Hamas and Israel conducted their second swap in the ceasefire deal on Saturday. 4 female Israeli soldiers were released for 200 Palestinian prisoners. The 6-week-long deal entails the release of prisoners every 7 days. In exchange, Hamas is set to release 33 hostages. Over 1,500 Palestinians are set to be free if the truce is finished in its entirety. 3 reception points for hostages have been created by Israeli authorities and will be equipped with soldiers, psychologists, and doctors. The women released were paraded and handed off to the International Committee of the Red Cross by Hamas gunmen. Each of the soldiers was taken from their base on October 7th during the initial attack. Each of the young women were teenagers at the time of their abduction. According to Palestinian officials, about 70 of the prisoners that were released will not be allowed to go home and must move abroad. They have been released by Israel on the condition that they will be sent to exile. It has also been reported that many of the releases were originally sentenced to lives in prison.
A new Chinese-based ChatGPT competitor has entered the AI space, and it is rattling Silicon Valley. The open-source software DeepSeek has overtaken ChatGPT as the most downloaded free app in America, and it offers similar generative AI capabilities as its competitors OpenAI and Meta. The company responsible for the software claims it was made in only 2 months on a budget of $6 million, though there are some questioning these claims. Despite the worries, the claims are making American investors nervous, with the Nasdaq dropping 3% and tech giant Nvidia's stock value dropping nearly 17%.
In Seoul, South Korea, 179 people died in a plane crash, leaving only 2 survivors. The crash occurred at the Muwon International Airport on December 29, 2024, but the real cause of the crash is still unknown. They released new information this week about their black box recording capturing most of the crash. However, it stopped recording in the last 4 minutes of the crash. The pilots identified a group of birds that they were trying to, quote, go around, end quote. As the crash, investigators found bird blood and feathers in the wreckage. The root cause is still unknown, and the preliminary report said, quote, Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board will tear down the engines and examine components in the depth to find the root cause, end quote. Coming up after the break, hear about the developments of multiple of Trump's executive orders and how conservative influence has already impacted state legislation, and how a unique flower blooms in New York during this winter weather. Don't go away. Begin, here is this week's breaking news. President Donald Trump froze all federal grants and loans, which affected all public programs funded by the government. This includes Medicaid, Meals on Wheels, education and nonprofit organizations, and various other federal aid programs that weren't able to access their funds this morning to afternoon. As of now, a judge has blocked the order. Even so, Democrats across the United States have spoken up against this order and are filing lawsuits. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has since stated, quote, "This decision is lawless, destructive, cruel. It is American families that are going to suffer most," end quote. This is an example of the executive power the president has over budget, also known as the power of the purse. While the federal judge has blocked it, concerns continue for the future of these crucial programs.
Trump's first day in office began with a flurry of executive orders being signed. Most of these decisions and signatures were to overturn many of former President Joe Biden's policies, which he enacted in office. A large number of these new orders are sure to be challenged in court, but are largely seen as a scare tactic by the new administration. The executive orders gaining the most attention are the halt on the TikTok ban, the end to affirmative action requirements, DEI programs, and ending birthright citizenship. So far, Trump has given a 75-day extension to the national TikTok ban for the owner to sell. As far as the repeal of DEI programs, the government will no longer use the implementation of various diversity and equality programs when it comes to various federal work positions. Instead, people will be hired on a, quote, merit basis. This new policy effectively revokes the Equal Employment Opportunity Rule, which protects a person from discrimination based on things like their religion, race, or gender. Lastly, Trump enacted a move to end birthright citizenship, something protected by the 14th Amendment. Trump wants to challenge the citizenship of children born in the U.S. to illegal immigrant parents. This motion will most likely be challenged in court for its constitutionality. Among these headline policies, Trump also signed many other new and potentially disruptive orders. Trump signed 2 new policies involving a person's gender. The first, removing protections for transgender people in federal prison, and second, the U.S. government announced they will only recognize 2 sexes, male and female. There also are numerous changes to environmental protections, the largest being the withdrawal of the U.S. from the Paris Agreement, a pact nearly every country signed to fight climate change. He also declared a national energy crisis, opening up the Alaskan wilderness to oil and gas drilling. There also was the U.S. withdrawal from the WHO, the World Health Organization, making a future pandemic much harder to fight. There also will be 2 name changes. Mount Denali will be changed back to Mount McKinley, and Trump also intended to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, a name only the U.S. would recognize on maps, but not other countries. Finally, the last changes Trump enacted since coming into power are the pardoning of all January 6 rioters, the beginning of ICE raids across the nation, and some of the first deportation flights that took off Thursday.
President Trump signed an executive order to declassify the files and records associated with John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassinations. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated 62 years ago. Since then, many Americans have had theories on how he died and who killed him. MLK and RFK were killed only a few years after. Some believe that these files will release important information about these assassinations, while other experts disagree. President Trump first ordered the record to be released in 2017, but was not enacted because of the Record Collection Act of 1992, which protected this information from the public till the act expired. The new executive order gives the Director of National Intelligence and Attorney General 15 days to release the JFK record and 45 days to release the records of MLK and JFK. When signing the order, President Trump said, quote, "That's a big one, huh? A lot of people are waiting for this a long time, for years, decades," end quote. As conservative ideals spread throughout the country, the topic of same-sex marriage has been debated among the states. Our reporter Alyssa Mandarak will tell us what state has called upon the Supreme Court to decide its legality. Alyssa?
Idaho lawmakers have requested upon the Supreme Court to give states the right to decide the legality of same-sex marriage. An overwhelming passive support for the request was made by a state House committee, sending it in a letter. Both chambers of this House are controlled by Republicans. Obergefell v. Hodges was passed 10 years ago in a 5-4 vote, protecting the right to marriage to same-sex couples across all 50 states and D.C. Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas have previously suggested the reconsideration of this ruling. Alito and Thomas were 2 of the dissenting opinions in the 2015 ruling. Idaho State Representative Heather Scott said, quote, "If we start down this road where the federal government or the judiciary decides that they're going to create rights for us, then they can take rights away," end quote. The state had passed an amendment in 2006 to limit the abilities of marriage. Lawmakers are determined to, quote, "restore the natural definition of marriage, a union of one man and one woman," end quote.
The teams that will be playing in football's biggest game have now been decided. This past weekend saw 2 games that had everyone's eyes glued to the TV. The Washington Commanders played the Philadelphia Eagles, and after a dominating fourth quarter, the Eagles won 55-23. Moving over to Kansas City, where the Buffalo Bills faced off against the Chiefs, and while it was a close game moving into the final quarter, the Chiefs came ahead with a win 32-29. Both teams will now be heading to New Orleans, where they'll be playing the NFL's big game, February 9th.
A rare and incredibly stinky flower has made a rare appearance at Brooklyn Botanic Garden in New York this past week. The Amorphophallus gigas, also known as the corpse flower, has bloomed for the first time since its arrival to the Botanic Garden in 2018. It is called the corpse flower due to its bizarre scent that resembles rotting flesh. The flower is native to Indonesia and is endangered, known for its tall height and scent. It takes years to bloom and has hundreds of male and female flowers inside. Aside from the height and scent, these flowers are rare because they only stay in bloom for a few days. A bystander interviewed by CNN described the scent as, quote, feet, cheese, and rotten meat, end quote. Meanwhile, across the globe in Sydney, Australia, at the Royal Botanic Gardens of Sydney, its corpse flower also made a stink and bloomed there as well. Visitor lines stretched up to 3 hours long, as it was the first time it bloomed in over 15 years. If you get the opportunity to take a whiff, take advantage of it, as there are approximately 1,000 corpse flowers left, and 100 of which are in botanical gardens. When we come back, get the details on the arrest during a multi-month investigation in Pittsburgh. And the holder of the rare Paul Skeens baseball card has made their decision to either sell or accept the offer from the Pirates. You don't want to miss this.
Suspect has been charged in the attack of an employee at the downtown Pittsburgh Jimmy John location. Melvin Robinson has been charged with aggravated assault along with criminal conspiracy engaging in aggravated assault. The fight originally broke out on December 16th at the Penn Ave location where Stephen McDonald was attacked and left severely injured. The fight originally began as a verbal altercation and then moved on to Damon Robinson and Tyree Blue Murphy beating, kicking, stomping, and even hitting McDonald with a bicycle tire, WTAE reports. Robinson was questioned by police after the fight, but was determined not involved in the fight at that time. Robinson said he never threw punches or kicks and tried to break up the fight. Later, looking back at the footage though, police discovered Robinson bear-hugging McDonald and punching him at least 9 times. Robinson was discovered to be the shift manager at the time and in control of the restaurant. Customers were not permitted inside due to it being past closed hours. McDonald was released from the hospital on Christmas Day after receiving life-saving care, as well as many surgeries, including facial reconstruction. McDonald is currently unhoused and is recovering in his tent where he lives with his service dog named Bear and girlfriend Katie. McDonald has been unable to afford proper housing due to the low pay, even as a manager, where he only makes $15.50 an hour. A GoFundMe has been set up to help cover McDonald's expenses, which you can still donate to.
The 11-year-old boy who found the one-of-a-kind autographed Paul Skeens card has rejected the Pirates' very generous offer in exchange for the card. The offer consisted of 2 season tickets behind home plate for 30 years, a softball game at PNC Park for 30 people, a spring training experience at Pirate City in Bradenton, Florida, a chance to watch the game in Skeen's girlfriend's private suite at PNC Park, 2 autographed Paul Skeens jerseys, and so much more. The boy declined the offer and decided to put the card up for auction instead. It will be part of the March premiere auctions with Fanatics Collect. Proceeds from the auction will be donated to fire relief funding in Los Angeles. Despite the boy's rejection of the offer, the Pirates shared a message with him, reading, quote, "Well, we're bummed that we won't be seeing you behind home plate for 30 seasons, but we'd still love to bring you to Pittsburgh for a special day at PNC Park this season."
An executive order was passed that is now federally mandating gender identity on government documents. Reporter Addison Deal has the details on just how this will affect Point Park's LGBTQ+ students.
In President Trump's first few hours in office, he signed over 20 executive orders, targeting things like immigration, DEI branches, and extending Title IX discrimination protections. While President Trump says this is, quote, defending women against gender ideology and extremism, end quote, many LGBTQ+ students are seeing their safety called into question.
It was really just devastating because I feel like especially in the past 10 years, there's been so much progress, but the fact that it was just so immediate, I mean, it was just shocking.
The order targets both transgender involvement in female sports along with federally tying gender identity to biological sex. Official government documents such as passports and visas will now require applicants to define themselves as male or female. How this is going to affect Point Park students specifically is still unclear. Point Park's Title IX office is still working to update their policy on discrimination, but as of now, their current policy is still in place, protecting students from discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, and gender expression. NewsNight will keep you updated as this policy changes.
I mean, as a trans person, like my trans friends, we were reaching out to each other and we were just like, we just have to keep going. And I think that's really what people need to remember.
Title IX discrimination protections will not be able to extend to sexual orientation or gender identity, a challenge that many students will have to face over the next 4 years. In downtown Pittsburgh, this is Addison Deal reporting for UView Television.
Individuals were arrested following raids at 2 spas in North Strabane Township on Friday. Homeland Security and local law enforcement conducted a multi-month investigation into suspected prostitution activities at Gin Spa on McClellan Road and Yan Spa on Houston Hill Church Road, both owned and operated by the same individual. The investigation, which included undercover operations, led to the arrests of Walter Mogg Jr., 59, Jing Wang, 53, Ying Lua, 52, Yan Miao, 51, and Sayo Oyan, 49. Authorities allege that Mogg and Wang, identified as the leaders of the operation, transported employees between the 2 spas while knowingly facilitating the exchange of money for sexual acts. Both spas have been closed pending further investigation. This incident follows similar cases of spas being shut down for prostitution in nearby areas, such as Bridgeville and Mount Oliver. The investigation is ongoing, and NewsNight will keep you updated as more information becomes available.
The Student Center basement, recently renovated to the Professional Career Readiness Center, flooded this Sunday from a pipe leak. The leak covered the basement floor, halting all operations and events set to take place in the center this week. When speaking with the Director of Career Readiness, Dean Jolin, he stated, quote, "I know and appreciate that all resources have been utilized to clean up the space after this unforeseen incident and know that progress is being made to ensure that the entire space is operational as soon as possible," end quote. As of now, the facility is drying via fans and all events have been moved to separate locations on campus. Jolin expressed, quote, "It is important to maintain a positive mindset, even in the face of unfortunate challenges like these, to make the most of a situation and seek the best way forward," end quote.
On Monday, Pittsburgh Mayor Ed Gainey expressed that his administration does not plan on cooperating with federal administration authorities amid the Trump administration's mission to deport illegal immigrants from the U.S. According to a quote from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Gainey directly stated, quote, "My administration will not work with ICE. We will do whatever is necessary to make our city more welcome," end quote. Gainey argues that ICE agents will not resolve the country's immigration issues. He added that the agency will only create fear and division through the deportations. Gainey is not the only leader who has taken a strong stance against ICE. Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago stated, quote, "I promise you, we will not bend or break our values. They will remain strong and firm," end quote. Updates to come as the upcoming years progress. When we come back, Thailand has introduced a historic legislation for same-sex couples after years of effort. Also, hear your chilly weekly weather update to answer the question, will this winter weather come to an end? Stay tuned.
Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
This past Thursday, Thailand became the first Southeast Asian country to legally recognize gay marriage. With this exciting news, Bangkok Pride organized a massive wedding event at the Slam Paragon Shopping Center, at which over 200 couples signed their marriage certificates. Celebrations have been taking place across the country. However, the one in Bangkok was the biggest. During the event, recorded message from Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra was played in which she said, quote, "This marriage equality law marks the beginning of Thai society's greater awareness of gender diversity and our embrace of everyone, regardless of sexual orientation, race, or religion. Our affirmation that everyone is entitled to equal rights and dignity," end quote. Drag queens performed at the wedding event to celebrate marriage equality as couples walked down the rainbow carpet. A lot of these couples held the sentiment that this was something that was long overdue. The fight for equality is not yet over, as transgender people are still not legally allowed to change their identities. Many people are hoping Thailand can keep taking steps for more LGBTQ+ equality. Do you hear that noise? It's the sound of me actively defrosting, as this week's weather seems warmer than the last. Our weather reporter Ruthie Light will give you the details. Ruthie?
Thanks, Leslie. The winter temperatures are slowly going up, and tomorrow will be the starting point. We've had some cool days reaching the negatives, but tomorrow we'll have a high of around 39 degrees and a low of 22 degrees by the evening. But with the wind gusts reaching around 30 to 40 miles per hour, it'll make the real feel around 16 to 20 degrees. Along with the cold weather, we'll be seeing snow showers throughout the day with the possibility of an inch of snow. However, most of the precipitation will happen in the morning, so if you commute, make sure you do so safely. The rest of the week won't be so harsh, as we'll be getting temperatures up to 50 degrees. Thursdays will start in the late 30s and mid 40s until we hit a high of 50 on Friday. And as a result, we'll be getting rain showers instead of snow. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday won't be as warm, but will stay in the mid 40s range with bouts of sunlight during those cloudy days. And finally, Tuesday will see a drop to the mid 30s. The nights and early mornings will still be quite chilly, so continue to bundle up and stay warm. Now back to the desk.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of NewsNight. If you want to see more, check out our social media pages on both Facebook and Instagram at UView Television.
You can also check out more episodes on our YouTube channel or our website, uview.pointpark.edu. Also, stay tuned on our YouTube channel for UView's Sideline episode going live at 7:30 later tonight. I'm Juliana Brock.
And I'm Leslie Krebs. From everyone here at NewsNight, thank you for watching and have a great evening.